Okay, you little bundle of joy. You have a theatrical quality that's really something special. Um, it's gonna be a yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So you gotta hang on till tomorrow.
Hi, my name is Jordyn Foley, and this is my bullying story. As a lot of you know, I was on the X Factor back in 2012. I actually hold the title of being the youngest contestant in history, which is pretty radical, not gonna lie. And although my time on the X Factor is its own complete and complex story, I will not be talking about the filming or any of the pre-X Factor auditions. This is purely what happened during and after the airing of my episode. One thing, however, I do want to mention is that this was my first huge professional gig I had ever had in my life. I had worked so hard to get to this point I actually was the one who pushed my mom for me to audition for this. I was just really excited to see how this was all going to turn out and the opportunities that it could possibly lead to for my career. So I remember the weeks leading up to the airing of my episode, I had literally all of my friends and family watching the show every single time it aired. And that was so amazing just because they were all being so supportive and were constantly posting on social media saying, maybe tonight's the night. And then I remember the week before I aired, they had showed a preview for my episode, and it ended with me on stage in my little Justice rocker glittery outfit. And everyone was so excited because that was the episode that they knew I was going to be on. And so the day came along. I was so excited to the point where it kind of just felt unreal and kind of like a dream, just because I was going to be on national TV. I mean, I was 12 years old. I never thought that this was going to happen when I was 12. And I remember it aired on the East Coast first, obviously, and I'm on the West Coast. So my mom got a text from one of her friends saying that it aired and that I was trending on Twitter underneath the hashtag pink glitter, which I so kindly said that I was going to name my first album.
Or your first album, your first CD?
Pink glitter.
Still considering it, honestly. Pink glitter is kind of awesome. So, of course, I was trending. We had to look it up. I mean, I never trended on social media like this before. And so we were expecting like a bunch of really kind, positive comments, and unfortunately were met with a bunch of negative ones. And I remember just being in total shock because I was only 12 years old, and the audition that I had done in reality, I thought was okay. Unfortunately, though, the audition that I had actually done was not the one that was edited to fit the X Factor's mindset for what they wanted to put forward on the show. So it was a false interpretation of how my audition actually went. And I remember my mom and I were kind of scared of that happening just because of the way things went at the audition. But we were really hopeful that they wouldn't do that. But unfortunately, they did. And so I remember it came time for us to watch the show that night. And I was just full of so much, at this point, nerves, not even excitement, and almost anxiety, that I had this pillow I was clenching onto the whole entire time and just burying my face into. And I just remember being in shock again watching the audition, just because it was edited in a way where my answers weren't exactly as I actually had said them. My audition wasn't edited correctly. Like I said, I'm going to do a whole other video on this part. And I just remember being embarrassed almost, just because I knew the person that they were showing on TV. Although in real life, I was a very, very optimistic, enthusiastic little girl, I knew what they had shown on TV was not me. And so after watching the episode, I went to bed, and I remember opening my phone before going to bed because I just wanted to see if the comments that we saw on the East Coast were the same on the West Coast, or if any of my friends were saying anything about me, because like I said, I was honestly embarrassed by what was shown on TV. And being in middle school, I mean, embarrassing moments like this are kind of life defining, it feels like, honestly. And I was just shocked by what I saw. I mean, it was almost overwhelming in a way, the amount of hate and the amount of just disdain people were throwing at me constantly, just saying I was the worst thing that they've ever seen in their lives, that I was their worst nightmare come to lives, that I had no business being in this industry. I was just all these horrible things. And I was still kind of in shock from all this, honestly. I don't remember crying. I don't remember yelling or anything. I just kind of was still, and I barely slept that night because of that. And I was also preparing myself for facing my friends at school the next day, because that seemed like the worst part, honestly. And I remember my mom reaching out to my music teacher, telling him everything, basically, that it did not go the way that we wanted it to, in that it was just nothing but a pool of negativity. And Mr. Morello, who was such an incredible supporter of mine and still is to this day, I'm so thankful for him. He welcomed me to come eat lunch in his classroom, or just go to his classroom if I ever needed just a break, or if I just needed to talk or get away from something that was bothering me. I remember going to school, and I kind of felt like the Black Plague, if that makes sense, when I walked in, just because nobody wanted anything to do with me. I knew they were talking about me. And that honestly was almost worse. I feel like people talking behind your back is worse than people saying things to your face, because at least if they're saying it to your face, you know exactly what they're saying. But behind your back, it's up to your imagination to what they could be talking about. And that day was a total blur. And so were the next few days. And it wasn't until I came to school one day when everyone was like, have you seen this? And they pulled up this really famous app called iFunny, and I was in the top 10 of it, because of a meme someone had made out of me off of a YouTube comment someone said about me microwaving my hamster, which is so funny because, first of all, I'm vegan, so I don't even understand how that would work, but I just remember being so humiliated, and I just wasn't prepared. And I didn't tell my mom about this initially, just because I think I was still in shock about it and still trying to process the fact that this was happening. And I remember it came the day for my boot camp episode to air, and I was in San Francisco auditioning for a show, and it was going so positively out there. It was a great audition, and then when we left, I know my mom and I were just dreading going home and watching the boot camp episode. And that was when I finally told her about this meme that was going around about me everywhere. I mean, I couldn't escape it. Like, it was all over my old YouTube videos that even aired before. Like, people would go on there and be like, did you really microwave your hamster? Like, really? What do you think? And it was just a really big mess. And so my mom and I, instead of going home to watch the episode, we ended up just ditching the idea of watching the episode and went and got what I call comfort food, which was milkshake and curly fries from Mel's Diner. And so after the boot camp episode aired, and this is obviously when I knew I was getting booted off the show, I was a little bit optimistic about part of it, just because I knew I had an incredible interview at the end of it where I felt like I handled myself very maturely for my age. And I had said that it just wasn't my time. And that's how I felt. You know, my time will come. That just wasn't my time. And for some reason, I was addicted to reading the comments on my videos. And so I decided to go to that video on YouTube and watch and read what people said about me. And one comment that always stuck with me was, it's never going to be your time, Pink Glitter. And out of all the comments, it seemed like that was like the most basic and like the most, attacking comment. But that comment almost attacked me the most, just because when you have all this negativity over the positivity thrown at you for something that you love doing and something that you think that you're meant to do, it just really does feel like it's never going to be your time. And for some reason, strongly believed that. A lot of middle school was a blur for me, honestly, just because this is how I like to compare it. When they say that you're in a lot of pain physically, they say that your brain likes to block off that part so you don't feel it. And I really strongly believe that works when it comes to mentality as well. And I was just in so much pain at that time in my life that I think my brain just kind of fogged it up for me so I wouldn't have to be in that pain. And I think the worst part about being harshly cyberbullied was, I read an article about this. When you're being bullied verbally, which did happen to me as well, and that was awful, it's someone else talking to you and saying something to you. It's not you saying it to yourself. But when you're reading something, when it's a comment, a text, anything, your mind is reading it in your own voice. So essentially you're saying it to yourself, and that tends to cut deeper. And so everything I was reading, it was almost like part of me believed it was true because I was technically saying it to myself. And that ended up with me developing a form of imposter syndrome, which I know a lot of artists deal with. It's a big issue, as well as body dysmorphic disorder, because a lot of people commented on the way I look. I honestly think it's awful, the fact that you are in the media, that people feel the need to comment on the way you look, especially when you're 12 years old and don't even understand the idea of beauty standards technically at that time in your life. And it was horrible. One thing I do remember that isn't as foggy for me from my time in middle school was the idea that people just got meaner to me after I was booted off the show. It was like, oh, she's not on TV anymore. She doesn't have this chance of being famous anymore. I don't have to be her friend or pretend to like her. And I just remember people at school would, I remember a few instances actually was when I would try to go sit with someone at lunch and they told me I was too fat to sit with them, which is crazy because I was only like 4'6". There were times people would just be like, oh, by the way, about your X Factor audition, you shouldn't have sang that song. It just wasn't good for your voice. And just all of this crap that just was like, oh, thanks. This makes me feel 10 times better. I'm just great. Although part of me was like really, really depressed and hurt and humiliated and thought I had no business singing anymore, part of me still wanted to improve, and part of me still wanted to see if there's a way I could prove that idea wrong. And so my mom so amazingly got me lessons to start learning how to sing more contemporary styles of music. And that was really great for me. But besides doing that, I would literally just go home and just stay in bed for the rest of the day, except for maybe getting food, which I would bring back to my bed most of the time, and just be very, very depressed. I knew what was shown on the show did not nearly represent the talent I knew that I had. So I decided to sing Titanium by David Guetta because I thought it described the person I wanted to be, bulletproof, that I could just take this and say, you know what, I can do this. I don't care what you're saying about me. That's not who I am. Say whatever you want. I can push through. And I posted that. And a lot of the comments, surprisingly, came back and said, wow, you've improved so much since X Factor. Or, why didn't you sing this for your X Factor audition? Or, wow, you're actually good. I wasn't expecting that. But then there's also like 80% of the comments that obviously, but I now realize just didn't even watch the video. We're just there to comment for the sake of commenting. And they were saying horrible things, like I sounded like I was screeching, or I sucked. And, or again, where's the microwaving hamsters? I'm never gonna live that comment down. I still get that comment to this day. That made it really hard for me to post covers. So I felt like after that, part of me was just scared to do anything like that. And that's pretty much what I remember from middle school from this time. And unfortunately, this continued on through high school. And part of me, even though I was dealing with this imposter syndrome and had this constant little voice in the back of my head telling me I couldn't do this, that made me work almost 100 times harder to do it and make it. I turned down parties. I turned down basically what a normal teenager does, just so I could practice, just so I could go to lessons, just so I could learn a new song, just so I could learn piano better, get better at music in general. And I don't regret that for 1 minute, honestly, because that helped me form into the artist I am today, who I'm very proud of. But I was just so driven to make a point. Actually, I remember during my freshman orientation, I got to go up and sing for my whole entire freshman class in high school. And I sang Titanium again just because I knew it was a song I was comfortable with and I knew it was very popular. And I was so excited because I knew I had done the best job I could have done in that moment. And I was really hoping that people would go defend me in these comments like my loved ones were already, and would maybe even post something about it. And although some people did, there were a few people from my school who I knew personally who went on there and said stuff like she sang this and wasn't much better than her initial audition, or that they were embarrassed to go to school with me. And that really hurts because I just don't understand what I did to make them tear me down like that. And I know I was talking about this imposter syndrome I had throughout all of high school, and I just want to take a second here and just give a huge thank you to my mom, because there still are times, but in high school it was the worst, where I would literally just be so passive aggressive and just so angry all the time, or when we try to film an audition or film a video, where I would just literally lose it because I hated the way I looked, I hated the way I sounded, and I would take out all this anger on her. And I just want to give her a huge thank you because it was a really hard time in my life. And sorry. It's hard for me to talk about this. And I'm just so thankful for her standing by me. And sorry about that breakdown right there. I was just grateful to have my mom there, even when I was an inconsolable mess, to tell me it was going to be okay, and that just to support me through everything I did. Because I don't think I would have gotten through this without her. I just also remember people would just constantly comment on the way I looked in high school. I don't know what gave them the right to think that they could do that, but they did. I remember my senior year, I started working with the Peter Pan Foundation, and I was cast as Rapunzel in their big show, Wish Upon a Star, and I was so excited. And I remember telling all my friends about it. And I remember this one girl in one of my classes turned to me and said, "I thought princesses were supposed to be skinny and pretty." And that was just part of it. I get a lot of that, and that definitely did add to this body dysmorphic disorder I have. And I mean, even though I am more comfortable and confident in the woman I am today, there are times when I second guess everything about myself from the way I look. Although I was having all of these negatives in high school, like I said, I was still working my butt off. I got to record an album for Ron Lytle, which was amazing. And Ron has been nothing but a huge supporter of my talents since I was 8 years old, and still is such a huge supporter. I got to be the jazz band singer for the top tier jazz band at my school without even singing a lick of jazz before that. I got to originate a role for Ron Lytle. I got to do incredible things. And I remember when it came time for college, and I only applied to one school, which I don't recommend necessarily doing, but I was just so certain about this school. And I just still remember that voice in the back of my head kept telling me, "Why are you going for music? Why don't you go for something that you know you probably could do?" And I ended up being one of the first people to find out that I was accepted into the 2018 class of incoming BFA 1s or freshmen. And that was a really great moment for me because I felt like I had finally done it. I got into this amazing school with a great reputation, all based off of my talent and who I was as a person. I mean, I don't constantly search for validation in life. I don't think anyone should search for outside validation, but that just was a really, really forming moment for me, because that's when I realized that all this hard work I'm doing is starting to pay off, and I'm starting to prove people wrong, that I can do this. Also, it's the same time when I started getting involved with the Peter Pan Foundation, and they helped me through so much of the self-doubt and just horrible negativity in my life. They've been nothing but supportive to me, and I'm so thankful to them. I can't thank PPF enough or put into words how grateful I am and how much they helped me. And I love you, PPF, so much. People always ask me, how did I get through this time in my life? And it's just because I had such a strong support system. I mean, I had my family and my mom, my nana, my grandpa, my brother, even my dogs. They were always there when I needed someone to tell me that I could do this, and that I just there when I needed to talk to someone. I had amazing friends. I had the Peter Pan Foundation. I had such incredible support that they are the pure reason why I was able to push through all of this. Without them, I don't think I would have been able to become this woman that I am today. And I'm just so proud of the woman I am today, because I am always who I envisioned I was going to be. I am so involved in philanthropy. I get to use my voice to make a difference in this world. And the most important part is that I finally believe in myself and that I can do this. Not only did I prove it, I'm constantly proving those adults who went online and tore down a 12-year-old. I am proving that 12-year-old who never believed in herself after reading those comments wrong. And I couldn't be more proud of myself. And it's still really hard sometimes. I still have those times where I really doubt myself and just tear myself down, but I have built up enough strength to tell myself that I'm being stupid in those moments and to keep pushing forward, because there's always a better tomorrow. And I'm just going to continue to grow. And I'm really excited to see where the future takes me. And if maybe my story can help someone out there who's struggling with something like this. Because I know how hard it is. To end this video, I just want to remind everyone out there who has ever had anyone try to tear them down or tell them that they can't do something. They don't know what you're truly capable of. You're amazing. Just keep remembering that there's only one you in the world, and you're enough. Thank you for watching and for seeing me cry. And thank you for constantly supporting me and being there for me. And even if you are one of those people who tried to tear me down before and you see this video and you changed your mind, thank you for giving me the time to tell my story and for listening. A question I always get asked is, do you regret auditioning for the X Factor because of what happened? And honestly, no. Yeah, it really sucked what happened. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, and I kind of hope that it stays the hardest thing that ever go into my life. But it formed me into who I am today, and I couldn't be more thankful for that.